Welcome to the Home Depot Center alongside Ralph Perez, Joe Tutino, and welcome to LAGalaxy.com. It is the final preseason game for the Los Angeles Galaxy today as they take on CD Aguila, and then next week it begins for real right here at the Home Depot Center. And Ralph, today, basically what Bruce Arena wants, make sure everybody stays healthy.
Well, no question. It's the last game, and you want to get everyone out there to get some minutes. I'm sure he has in mind even about who he wants to give 90 minutes, who he wants to give 70, or maybe just a half to. But I think hearing them today at the Fan Fest sounds very excited, very upbeat about the upcoming season, and anxious to get this last game under their belt before they get into the real thing next week.
Speaking of Fan Fest, that went on moments ago out at the north end of the parking lot here at the Home Depot Center. Bruce Arena did speak to the fans. And one thing I thought Bruce made an interesting point is that usually teams bring in a bunch of new faces. His coaching staff decided, we like the nucleus we have. They might be a little aged, but we like the guys we have. We're going to stay with this team.
Well, it's pretty interesting because when you look around the league, and I've been following all the teams, looking at their roster, the amount of players that were invited into their preseason camp, he mentioned that he had 23 players, and that was pretty much it. He had five new faces to the team, meaning an old face that's familiar to our fans, Clint Mathis, he brought in, and then obviously their draft pick from UCLA, and then the three Brazilians, and that's pretty much it. So usually in the preseason, teams are really, the rosters are big, you're looking at players, but they already, I think after their season was over last year in Seattle, I think they already figured it out by January which guys were going to return, which ones they were going to keep, and then went right from there. And I think that's good because then that means all those players got all the minutes in the preseason games, and you didn't give it to trialists or people that you're really just looking at and making a decision. I think he wisely went about his preseason, and I think they're ready to go in that regard.
I think one thing that Bruce Arena, he likes the word continuity because he really overhauled the roster going into the 2009 campaign. New goalkeeper, new back four, changed basically the entire team around outside of Landon Donovan and David Beckham and Alan Gordon. The Galaxy were pretty much a whole new team last year. So I think Bruce Arena and his coaching staff decided, you know what, we got it right last year. We don't need to make too many changes.
Well, I think when you have it right, that's a reason not to do it. And I think if you look around the league and the teams that have been most successful in the last 2-3 years, Houston and Columbus, those are the kinds of teams that just keep it going and just replacing little tweaks and players that you have to find for. But I think overall, when you look at the Galaxy roster this year, that's probably the biggest thing that helps. Everybody knows each other, everybody knows each other's tendencies, and then obviously you have a great feel for the players on your team, where to plug them in, where to play them, what system you want to use, and then you just go from there and put the other people into that puzzle. And I think that the Brazilian players tonight are going to get their chance to see what they can do.
The new players, 3 Brazilians, Juninho, Leonardo, and Guzman. Let's talk a little about those guys. 2 defenders and 1 midfielder.
Yeah, 1 outside back. And, one of the things that always when you have an outside back that's Brazilian, they usually are pretty good getting into the attack. And I think that's what the Galaxy want to have. Secondly, the center back, I think, gives you depth in that regard because, you got Berholt, who's up there in age. You got Champions League games this year. You're going to be taxing your players with more games than they have in the past. So it's always good to have some depth there. And then, obviously, a playmaking Brazilian midfielder, which is something that I think the Galaxy have needed and something that's been missing in their play. And since
Mauricio Cienfuegos left, the Galaxy didn't have somebody who can link balls in the center circle.
Yeah, someone that that's basically what they've honed their game around. Being a playmaker, being a connector, someone who can find the forwards, someone who can come back and get balls off the defenders. So I think in that regard, the Galaxy are really going to have a different look in that sense, someone to play through and help the attack.
Finally, you mentioned Clint Mathis, his return to a Galaxy uniform, a little more grizzled, a little older, but Clint Mathis still a great player in this league. What do you expect his contribution will be to the Galaxy in 2010?
Well, I think, first of all, he showed really, I think, to Bruce and to the staff just what he did last year against them in the game in the final. He came in, he was on the bench. It was a good person to have off the bench when you got an injury. Player who can play make, a player who can really hit some penetrating passes and still can be a little dangerous in his own way of getting forward and combining with the players. And I think Clint, I think what happens as you get older, you get a little wiser, you get a little smarter. And I think that, having him now in the course of a season, a player like that, and what they had to get him was not just a draft pick. So I think that was a great transaction for the Galaxy.
Well, there you have it. It's the Galaxy and CD Aguila coming up in moments right here on LAGalaxy.com.